the report today from ESPN that Trae Young and the Hawks are working with one another to try to find a possible trade destination for him. So, Danny, maybe we could lay out some of the financial considerations of Trae's contract status, et cetera, that play into possibly having him be traded.
Usually, you can think of trade sometimes as unilateral teams negotiating with each other. The players have less agency. However, that's a little bit different with Trae Young because Trae Young has a player option for next year for the 26-27 season. And so what that means is a team could acquire Trae Young without necessarily having the confidence that they will have him long term, which is a very different set of terms. You're going to give up different assets in a potential trade. And so he is an active part of this process. We saw De'Aaron Fox have a large role in his eventual getting into San Antonio and getting Sacramento, and so Trae Young can have a voice in this process. And one of the other fascinating piece of context here is, usually I like to think of trades as a positive endeavor. A team is trading for Trae Young. And so that also gets into the question of, well, what are they getting from Trae Young? Because the Hawks, one of the most telling stats for me on this season is that they've outscored teams by about 2 points per 100 possession when Jalen Johnson's been on the floor without Trae Young. They're outscored by 11 per 100 possessions when Trae Young and Jalen Johnson are out there together. I'm not saying that's all on him. Teams are shooting weirdly well from three, unsustainably well when Trae's been on the floor in those minutes. But the idea that the Hawks have been able to weather these storms makes them more interested in trading him away.
Yeah, and Trae making $49 million next season, and that is a player option. And so I think this is an attempt by him to get somewhere where he can get his next contract. It's been somewhat clear that new GM Ansi Sala and the Hawks are not looking to extend him on a current deal that at that type of money, 30% of the salary cap or more. And quite frankly, this season, and I would say even last year, he probably hasn't played at that type of level. And so there is a chance now for him to explore the possibility of going to another team that is going to invest in him at that type of level. However, I would say Trae maybe has a little bit less leverage in this circumstance than, say, De'Aaron Fox, who I think would have had a number of teams interested in him. He really wanted to go to San Antonio, but San Antonio really wanted him. There was talk maybe that Trae could end up in San Antonio before Fox went there. So I think the issue is, A, Trae's not playing at his best level right now, and B, I'm not sure what the team is that wants to acquire him, even to pay him the $49 million next year, much less give him another new contract as well at that type of level. They're free to explore it. I'm not sure what that team is right now.
It's a very fair question. And at his best, Trae Young has been one of those players who his presence alone was enough to put you into the top echelons on offense when he was on the floor. It's been a few years since that's been consistently the case. And that's a huge selling point. That's something that can differentiate him from some of the other guys that could potentially be out there on the market. And so if a team was convinced of that based on prior success, now not immediate success, that would be an important part of the story. And it's also a challenge. Like I've really grown to embrace the term pre-agency for the incentive that Trae Young has here to get to a place that you want to be and that wants you to be there. And so for Trae Young, it's a huge incentive to try to line that up. There will be more teams with cap space in the summer of 26 and potentially the summer of 27 if Trae Young opts in than there have been recently. But it's a lot harder. You have to be the person that they want the most. And so for Trae Young, it's a lot better to try to make that happen now. And for the Hawks, if they have determined, which I'm not saying they have, that Trae Young is not the answer, well, it's better to move early than to move late because you can get something for him. You could restructure the team ahead of it. So it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, you would think maybe if you want to think of Young as possibly a distressed asset at this point, a distressed team that's looking to take a step forward that's been way below expectations might be it. But there aren't that many teams that are missing ball handlers at this point. You might have said maybe the Utah Jazz. Well, Keontae George has really emerged for them, just as one example. The New Orleans Pelicans, well, they've got DeJounte Murray returning from injury. They just drafted Jeremiah Fears. Sacramento Kings, they've kind of gone down that road with the guards who don't play defense before. And I think the reason why the Hawks might be less willing to extend Trae Young is because of the emergence of Jalen Johnson and how good he has looked with the ball in his hands when Trae has been out.